you through my new company called 10X, but before I do that, I'm going to show you a video as I normally do. I'm making this video to explain something to you. I have recently offered the service to all aircraft and vessel brokers, and including anyone who's in any sales game or any small business, to do training for you and to do things that will help you expand your business. I've had a little bit of pushback from friends of mine because they don't think I should be training their competition. Well, here's the deal. If you have any singular problem in your business, whether you're a vessel or an aircraft broker, just send it to me. I'll create a specific program to take you through helping you to expand your business, helping you to eliminate that problem. It is my responsibility, it is my goal not to create a problem for you, but to create solutions to current problems you're having. So just communicate with me. It's that simple. So there you are. That is the reason for this webinar. That is the reason for my new company, 10 Excellence. I have been connected to Grant Cardone for a while, and it's extremely helped my company, even though it's been in business for a couple of decades. So let's get started. The first place I'm going to start is give you some reality on who Grant Cardone is, because he's the author of the book 10 Excellence that you can see on my shirt.
How does money make your life easier? Who would you help? I want to do what I told my mom I would do. I am going to help millions and millions and millions of people. I want you to be one of them.
This is my guy right here, man. God bless you, bro.
I want to help you and help as many people as possible become financially prosperous, millionaires, even super rich.
How can you get an appointment when a customer is completely uncertain about their money? How can you close a deal when somebody's uncertain about their money?
I'm not trying to impress you with what I've accomplished in my life or how much I know. The reality is what I have created financially in my life is very simple, and that is why it will work for you.
Then you got to figure out how to find that frequency and that vibration. And people are like, dude, I want to send some money there. Not just noise. Every one of you in the room, including myself, are responsible for that condition. You have the vehicle.
That's what I mean about create the life you want, man, so you can have not balance, but life.
Grant Cardone, he joins me now. He's an international sales expert and the author of the 10X rule, the only difference between success and failure.
Yeah, look, I want to know what you stand for as a leader. I want to know that you stand for the right thing, whether it's popular or not.
Be relentless. Be strong. Know everything. 10X!
So what I have done so far is I've introduced you to my new company, which is 10X Excellence, showing you who I am partnered with, Grant Cardone, and I've given you a little bit of reality on who Grant Cardone is. So the first thing I want you to do is write a list of your personal and business goals for this webinar, and while you're doing that, I'm going to play a video for you out of the 10X book about his definitions of success.
Chapter 2, what is success? The definition really depends on where a person is in life or what has his or her attention at that very moment. Look, as you age and conditions change, the ways in which you're going to define success will transform and change and alter. Where you are in life, the conditions you're facing at this moment, and the situations, the events, the people in which you have your attention is most focused will influence your definition of what success means to you at that time. Success can be found in any number of realms: financial, spiritual, physical, mental, emotional, philanthropic, communal, or familial. However, wherever you find success, however you define it, the most crucial thing to know about success in order to have it and keep it are the following three things. Number one, success is important. Number two, success is your duty. And number three, there is no shortage of success. Success provides confidence, security, a sense of comfort, the ability to contribute at a greater level, and hope and leadership for others in terms of what might be possible. Think of success in terms of expansion. Success is equally important to a person's sense of self. Look, let's face it, when you're successful, it promotes a sense of confidence. Well, what's wrong with that? When you're successful, it promotes a sense of imagination and a sense of security, and it emphasizes the significance of your contributions. People who are unable to provide for their families and their future put themselves and their family at risk. That can't be good. Get real. Regardless of whatever your goals that you're trying to attain, success is critical, man. Quit playing with it. Quit diminishing the value of it. It is vital. It is critical. If you quit caring, then you're going to quit winning. And if you quit winning long enough in this thing called success, you're going to just plain quit. No one benefits from failure.
So, hopefully everyone has their list. I'm going to remind you, those of you who have been on my webinars before, that I invite your questions. Please, anytime something comes up, text it in, and I'll make sure that we interrupt the presentation to get you the answers that you're seeking. Where we're going to start with is a financial statement. You'll notice that all of these items have zeros on it. What I want you to get focused on is the small little section at the top called revenue. That is the answer to everything. The answer to every problem that you have, like not having enough people, not having enough money to spend on advertising, all goes back to generating more money at the top line. You can grow more than you can reduce expenses. Income is more powerful than expenditures. No bottom line exists without a top line. And you will not grow staying small. And here's the one that it took me a while to figure it out. People don't cost money. There's 22 million businesses in the United States that have no employees. Okay? They're stuck. They can't expand. You guys cannot scale your business if you don't create the systems to train people to come to work for you. So my suggestion to you is that you follow the 95-5 rule. Spend 95% of your time, efforts, money on increasing income, and 5% of your time on controlling expenses. It's that simple. This is the actual business cycle, and a lot of people don't have this right. The first thing that you need to do is marketing and advertising. The number one problem all people have in business is obscurity. So the marketing, the advertising brings you out of obscurity. Okay. The second thing is that if you do that correctly, it creates leads, which create prospects, and then you flow them into your sales cycle. And then you repeat that. So any money that you bring in off of closing a sale, reinvest that in marketing and advertising, and you'll just get that wheel spinning faster and faster. This is the definition of selling. The action of persuading or influencing another to some course of action or to the acceptance of something. What you need to recognize is that selling isn't just talking someone into giving you money in exchange for a product or a service. Everything that you do is about selling. Think about when you were a young kid and you wanted something. Mom, I want a cookie. And she said, no. Mom, I want a cookie. No. Mom, I want a... You were very, very insistent on getting your product, which was a cookie. And generally, your mom dumped cookies on you. Selling is a prerequisite for all success in life, whether you're convincing someone, persuading someone, if you're negotiating with someone, if you're debating with someone, or you're trying to get your way. It's all sales. Here is the number one reason why every business fails. The inability to sell products in quantities great enough at prices high enough is why businesses fail. And there should be a time element in there too. And I would add to that, fast enough. When you come out of non-existence in the world, you wake up one morning and you decide you're going to create a business, You need to make a sale quickly. You need to make profit on it and reinvest all of that money back into the marketing cycle. That is how you're going to make all this stuff work. The most important sale is you, okay? You have to be convinced that in order to be great, you have to sell yourself. You have to believe in whatever product or service is that you're selling. You have to believe that your particular sales project, if you're a broker for an airplane or a vessel, you have to believe in what you can bring to the market, and you're the best option. If you're not convinced that your product, your company, and your service are superior, it's going to be hard for you to close a sale. You have to be convinced. So the most important sale is you. Sell yourself. Now I want you to make a list of all things that make your company unique and different. Okay? I'm going to play you a video that I made about what I think my Aero and Marine tax company does to be unique or different, just so that you've got an idea. And I'd really appreciate it if some of you guys who made your list in the beginning about what you hope to accomplish, text those to me now. Hi, this is Tom Alston. Yesterday, while I was talking to a potential client on the phone, he asked me a real simple question. What differentiates my firm or me from everybody else that's in the aviation tax business? I didn't even have to think about that for a millisecond. The difference is accessibility. Anybody who's my client has my cell phone. They know they can call me 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Why? Because the questions that you have don't always come up between 8:30 to 5 o'clock Monday to Friday. They have a tendency to come up in the evenings. They have a tendency to come up on the weekends. So that is why I'm committed to being accessible to you. That is the differentiation between us. And have you ever had a CPA or an attorney who is available to you outside of his working hours? My working hours are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I'm accessible to you all the time. You have a cell phone. The only time you probably can't reach me is when I'm in an airplane flying someplace. My wife and I, Julie, who is my right hand and left hand in this business, you also have her cell phone number. So you have a way of you have two ways of reaching us and getting in touch with us. We're always available to you. So that is what differentiates us. That is part of the reason that we've done a little over 1,300 of these cases and never failed one, because of the accessibility and the communication level between us and our clients, which hopefully in the future includes you. I'm Tom Alston. Find out why people say call Tom. Call me at 916-691-9192. My personal extension is 108. Love to work with you. So I'm still not getting any feedback from you, and that would make this webinar more valuable to everyone, but I understand you're shy. I will not produce your name so people won't know who you are. I would just like some feedback. I can help you if you communicate with me. I will continue going through these slides, but you can back me up to any page that you want me to go over again, but I would love to hear what your goals are for this webinar. Here's something that has very seldom ever been confronted by most business. You think in terms of 3 degrees of action. You either do nothing, you run away from the problem, or you do what's known as the normal amount of action by looking around and seeing what other people do. What you are missing is the most important degree of action, and that's called massive action. We'll go back to the example that I gave you of when you were a kid. When you wanted something, you demanded it. You demanded it. You were persistent. You had no obscurity problem with your mom. You made a lot of noise and created a lot of problems. However that you were willing to do anything to make that work. And that level of action, that massive level of action, has been scraped off of most of us over time because of people pushing back and introverting you. You've lost your most innate valuable skill, and that's the willingness to create massive action. Any questions on that? That's why I'm available 24/7. Now, once you start doing massive action, you're going to create new problems for yourself. Every time that you raise the level of activity, the influx of new situations will create new problems for you. Don't look at problems as a bad thing, okay? Problems are generally an indicator that you're going in the right direction, that you're taking responsibility for increasing your visibility out in the marketplace. More people are going to reach to you, all right? Just be ready for it. Be willing to take responsibility for that. So take whatever level of action you're operating at right now and multiply it times 10. I know you can do it. I did it at 69 and 70, okay? It can be done. It's not something that necessarily takes a lot of money. You can push out a lot of stuff over the internet without spending a great deal of money, all right? And I will tell you that, say 15 years ago, the amount of people that were looking for airplanes who did searches on the internet was pretty low. That level of activity now is probably in the 75 or 80% range, and that's from my own personal surveys, okay? Third step on here, set goals beyond what you think is necessary. This is where your internal optimism kind of works against you. When you're thinking about creating a new situation, a new sales project, or taking on something, you're optimistic and you think you're going to accomplish it in this amount of time. And then as you start doing it, you find out it takes a little more, a little bit more, and it always takes longer than when you thought. The problem is not the goal. Don't ever reduce the goal. The problem is correct estimation of the amount of time it's going to take. So start out with always looking at, when you're setting goals, set those goals out. Realize that you're going to have to take this amount of action instead of this amount of action to get where you want to go. The fourth step on massive action is become unreasonable, okay? So you've been through probably some sales courses where it tells you how to handle objections. Most objections are not objections. They're just what we call RDR, okay? They're defensive reactions that people come out of their brain because we're all taught to use them, okay? It's too much money. That's just an RDR. That's not a real objection, okay? And as long as you acknowledge the objection and thus continue to make your pitch, okay, so that's a definition of unreasonable. So somebody sent me a question. Big auto dealers spend massively on marketing. This is why they succeed. Most companies won't do that. I can tell you that the axiom in, excuse me, in business on this planet is whoever spends the most money will always win. So you want to get yourself to the point that you have enough money coming out of your sales cycles to reinvest in marketing. So that is true. I was talking about when you first start out, there are ways to create marketing for yourself that you don't have to spend, or you don't have enough money to spend on the kind of marketing that you do. And thank you very much for the question. And yes, I agree with you completely. You want to get to the point that you are creating enough inflow of income that you can outspend people. But this is why, I mean, you're never going to, I shouldn't say that way. I mean, Coca-Cola is recognized everywhere on the planet, but they spend a lot of money on doing that. That's called market domination, okay? That is always my goal when I do something. But I have to take steps to get there. It takes a while, and that's money flows. So you go out, you close a sale, reinvest that money into advertising and marketing, which reduces your or expands your people who know you, and you're reaching more people, and your sales will go up. Here's the 6 steps to the sales process. It starts with you understand how to do the greeting. Then you move right into the qualifying, making sure that you're talking to the decision makers. So you don't want to spend all of your time talking to someone who isn't the one who's going to be the decision maker, because you're lessening your chances of closing the deal. So that's part of why I try to find that out quickly. Once you've qualified the prospect, then you go into where you demonstrate the product. Then you slide into this area. Once you've realized that you're talking to a decision maker, someone who can spend the money, and then you've demonstrated the product, you go to the proposal stage. Always, always give them a written proposal for what you're going to do that includes the price and the steps of how you're going to help them, okay? Be completely transparent in your sales cycle to the person that you're trying to close, okay? And there may be some pushback from that because you're worried about someone else is going to come along and try to beat your price. Don't worry about that, okay? You can't worry about it. It's going to happen anyway. Give them a proposal. Give people all of the information that they need to make a decision that you're the right guy. After you've done the proposal, complete the proposal, then do the closing of the offer, okay? And then it goes into follow-up, all right? And recognize that this is a cycle, okay? Whenever you go through this cycle and you close a deal, repeat the actions, the exact actions that you went through that made all of that work for you. That is how you continually can increase your wealth and expand your business, because you've got to get to the point that you can duplicate all those processes. So whatever you process that you use, whenever it works, the very first thing you do is repeat that process, and just keep repeating it forever as long as this works, and stop doing it if it doesn't work. It's pretty simple. These are the basics of how to do a greeting. Only give people your first name. How many times have you ever said hello to someone and given them your first and last name, and they give you their name, and you're talking to them, and 30 seconds later you don't remember what their name is? Okay, cut down what they have to remember. Okay, and if they give you a first name, hi, I'm Tom, pay attention to what the person you're talking to says and start using their name during the discussion that you're doing, so that they know that you listen to them, because that's what people want to know. When they come to you to talk to you about a product or whatever you're going to do for them, they want to know that you care what they tell you, okay? And that one of the ways to do that is to use their name through the process. This is for, the next section is for if you're actually meeting people. In my company, 99% of our sales are done over the phone, so part of this does not apply to me, and that may not apply to you. But if you ever meet someone, give them a firm handshake, make eye contact with them, and smile. This is something that culture as a child teaches you not to do. For 4 decades, I was a high school baseball coach, and I put all my players through this process to teach them to make eye contact with their teachers or with their school administrators, because that is going to help them be successful in life. But our culture teaches people not to do that. So just a word of warning.
Here's something that I always do. Everyone is a potential buyer. So let's say that you're used to selling heavy iron, and somebody talks to you, and you think they're going to be talking to you about a Cessna, a small piston plane. Treat them like a potential buyer all of the time, because you may discover by getting in communication with them that you had some wrong data about them. See them about how they're going to go, how all of that stuff is going to go. See them buying what you want, what you have for sale. See them in the future buying you one. And don't be offended by brush-offs, okay? There's a question that comes up that says, talk more about phone sales. I have an entire separate presentation for phone sales, which if you reach out to me, I'll be glad to go over with you, or I can create in the next webinar, if everyone would be interested in that, on doing just on phone sales. It's a complete subject, and it has a very, very specific technology. And thanks for bringing it up. Okay. You have to put the buyer at ease. You always use positive language. Here's a tip that I learned. A guarded customer has a high probability of being a buyer. That means that if someone is introverting from you a little bit and not giving you information, or you feel that they're withdrawing from you a little bit, that means they're trying to protect themselves because they know they're probably a buyer of your services or your project. That is the way I approach it. It's just in your mental outlook. You've got to be prepared to handle objections, and I have a complete course which I can deliver parts of in a webinar if you guys that are on this want to hear that and want to deal with that. I'd love to do that for you. Okay. I talked a little bit about the automatic reactions, the I'm just looking or I'm not buying today. Those are merely comments. They're things that people use to defend themselves from an aggressive salesperson. Okay. Always acknowledge people. Okay. One of the largest things that I see in this industry and in this day and age is people don't acknowledge communications. And so if you communicate with someone and they don't say, I got it, I've heard you, I mean, it makes you feel like you're being ignored. Don't do that to people who are reaching to you. Just acknowledge their communication. I'm just looking. Acknowledge it. Don't react to it, and then continue to show interest in them. Okay. The second thing is discover their fears and address them. You know, find out what they are, whether they're really committed to buying that product, whether they really have a price objection, whether they really have a time objection. Any kind of pressure, find out what that is. That's all occurs in the greeting and the qualifying steps. And I have complete courses that I can deliver on that. During the qualifying, it's important for you to find out who else is involved. Why? Because if you don't do that, you're going to waste a lot of time. You're going to go through a whole sales cycle with someone, and they're going to say, I got to go back and check with the boss. All right, the way I handle that is, all right, let's get him on the phone right now. Let's handle it right now. All right. Always be very overt in taking control of the situation and identifying who else is involved. A lot of times what they're telling you is just their own reactions to slow things down, okay? Always be willing to bring someone else in on a conference call if you're on phone sales. Always be willing to handle it, and do it now. Take the time out of it. It's a classic stall technology when people are, wait a minute, I got to think about it. That's a stall. But you have to find out whether it is or it's not, okay? You have to find out whatever they say to you, whether it's a real objection or if it's just a comment. And I have complete classes and courses that I can help you with, okay? And take control of all these communication cycles by asking very relevant questions, and most importantly, continue to ask the question till you actually get an answer to that question. Those of you who know me know that I do that all the time. I will not let people get away with sending me down a rabbit hole by, oh, gee, you know, it's the sun shining outside. Okay, that's not what you're trying to find out. They called you for a specific reason, so find it out. Always get answers to your questions. Excuse me. Find out what their dominant buying motive is. Find out what, why, how. What is the right product? What have they had in the past? Why is the product needed? And then figure out from those answers how you should present the product. And a lot of times the reason people don't buy from you is because you're trying to sell them the wrong thing. In order for someone to spend money with you, the product that you're trying to sell them or the service that you're trying to sell them must exceed the value of the money that's in their pocket. No one buys something until they think they're getting a deal, and that's what this is a manifestation of. Excuse me a second. Help them select the right product. Don't have all of your focus on your level of commission on that sale because you may be taking them down in price. You don't serve them until you sell them. You don't have a customer until you sell them something. So don't be focused on just yourself, okay? Make sure if you're selling an airplane, you know what their actual mission is, and make sure that you put them in the right product. If you do that, that's great service, and they'll always come back to you. So validate that you and the buyer are on the right product. Do that 100% of the time. Now, where it says confirm the DDBM, that's the dominant buying motive, okay? These are the things that you have to look at, all right? Always be ready to offer alternative products and choices. Whatever your product is, whatever your service is, be ready, have some inventory in your arsenal. Because if you do that, you give people choices, you're giving them information, and you're leading them down a path that's right for them. In the demonstration cycle, you want to find out what the buyer values. Show them some improved value. You want to present the features with the advantages and benefits that build value. Remember, you're trying to get to the point where what you're trying to sell them exceeds in their minds the value of the money that's in their pockets, okay? You sell with emotional connections and you close with logic. So once you've given them all of your sales pitch and you're ready to close, you change how you're dealing with it. It's no longer an emotional thing. You sell with emotional connections and you close with logic, okay? Always, always, always do whatever you can to control the conversation, okay? Always demonstrate your product or service before you enter into any cycle of negotiating prices. Because if you do, the only reason that would happen to you is because you're not confident in what you're doing. You're not confident in the value of what you're selling. And a lot of people call, what's the price? What's the price? What's the price? I got it. The answer is I got it. I know that you're concerned about the price, and I promise you I'll give you a price. But before I give you a price, I have to make sure that you and I agree on what we're talking about, okay? And then during the demonstration, you want to put the buyer in the position of taking some mental ownership of whatever you're trying to sell. If you're selling vessels, tell me about how you're going to use this and what you see and where you're going to go. Put them mentally in your airplane or your vessel or whatever you're selling or servicing, and get them to take ownership during the demonstration. That will really help your closing, okay? Whenever there's price concerns, always, always reassure them. Make sure that they understand that you're going to give them a price, but make sure that the demonstration is done, that you agree on what you're talking about before you talk about the price, okay? And then this is something that we use and that Grant has taught us to use about ask closing questions during the demonstration. If we're going through a sales process, and say, let's say you call me and you want to ask about the sales tax process, okay, I will give you the definition of how the exemption process works. And before I go into the demonstration of what we're going to do for you, I will take a pause and I'll say, do you have enough information to make a decision? I'll tell you why I do this. I discovered that the buyers always make the decision to buy your products before you know it. So during your sales pitch or your demonstration pitch, just whenever there's a lag in the conversation, ask that question. Do you have enough information to make a decision? It will shorten all of your sales cycles. What is a trial close? An attempt to start closing before entering the closing step. Ask questions that test the buyer's level of ownership. Now that's simple. What are you going to do? What are you going to be using this plane for? What countries or what locations or what states for what business are you going to fly to? You've got to find out if they're buying into your presentation. And the only way to do that is ask people, okay? The trial close asks for an opinion while the close asks for a decision. So make sure that you understand that. The trial close is such as the examples here. Where is the first place you're going to take your new airplane or your new vessel? That helps them take mental ownership, and you're making sure that they're paying attention to you. Or you could say, now that we've gone through the features, how does it sound to you? Always, always check with people to what they're thinking. Because if you bother to do that, you're going to find the people that have already made the decisions before they let you know. Or our last one is one that I use all the time. Do you have enough information to make a decision? Trust me, if you start using these, your sales cycles will be shorter, okay? You will not feel like when you get done with people that you wasted their time or your time. And some people, you need to recognize that there's some people that you aren't going to close, and they weren't going to buy from you anyway. So you want to especially shorten those sales cycles. Questions like that will reveal them to you. Number 4 is the proposal. The top line where it says present an offer to every buyer every time in situations without exceptions. And that I mean a written offer, something they can have in their hand. Okay? The typical mistakes that you made when it comes to the proposal cycle is that you don't ever initiate offering a proposal. Start a process in your company with whatever you're doing of always insisting that if you're talking to someone, always insist that you send them a proposal for your services in writing. The reason you want to do this is if you're just talking, they're just words. It's like in the greeting. You never remember, 30 seconds later, you don't remember what a guy's name is. If you have a name tag on, or if you gave him something with your name on it, he's not going to forget you, all right? So just go from there. Remember, make this a policy to present an offer to every buyer, every time, in every situation, and do it in writing. Another mistake you make is you overqualify the buyer. Stop trying to qualify them without stopping and making those hard questions. Do you have enough information? Because if you do that, you're going to make people mad. Let's imagine that you're an assistant salesperson who makes $50,000 a year, and you're trying to qualify a guy to buy a $50 million airplane, and you're talking to the guy who's going to make the buying decision. He's going to get to the point where he's going to say, why is this guy who doesn't come close to making the money that I make, okay, asking me all these questions about my finances, okay? It's just don't overqualify people. Yet there's no exact technology to do that. The more often that you do it, pay attention. Pay attention to what your communication cycles were with people when they didn't buy from you as well as buying from you, okay? And if you can record them, do that. If you can record yourself during sales cycles, do that. It's a great opportunity for you to improve your own sales stuff. Somebody just sent me a note that says, best sales training I've seen in my 50 years experience in sales. Whoever you are, thank you very much for acknowledging the work that we're trying to do, because we're doing this 10x excellence to help you guys improve your sales ability. Apologize. Third thing that you do incorrectly is you wait for an ideal situation. Why would you do that? Always in your mind presume that this guy is going to close. Always presume he's going to buy what the two of you agree on. Okay. See all of your futures. I'm going to use a word called postulate. Postulate. Make sure you look that up. It's going to really help you with your sales stuff. Okay. Fourth thing, it says you worry about your closing ratio. I don't. I'll tell you why. Guys with high closing ratios aren't talking to enough people. Oops. You've never heard that before, have you? I got a 50% closing ratio. Well, I had a 50% closing ratio the first week that I did this business. I talked to 2 people and I closed 1. That was a pretty high closing ratio. I have an 80% closing ratio. I talked to 10 people and I closed 8. Fill your pipeline with people who are giving you opportunities to give them a proposal and to close them in the sale. So if you took that, created that number and it turned it into 10,000 and you only made 150 closes, you'd make more money, you'd have more new clients, but your closing ratio would suck. Only people who worry about closing ratios don't have enough people in what we call their pipeline. Okay, and that's not something you've ever heard before. Don't worry about your closing ratio. Just worry about what your income is. Create more income for your top line. Trust me, if you went from talking to 5 people to talking to 1,000 people, you're going to make more money. Unless you're the worst salesman in the world or you have a completely criminal product. Try it. Next, your unwillingness to invest time. If you want to succeed, be willing to do things people in your industry won't do. That's the reason why I answer my cell phone 24/7, because no one else in the tax business that I know of will be willing to do that. I know that your questions come up outside of my office working hours, so I'm available to you. That's just an example. Find out what people in your industry are unwilling to do and do it that way. I will tell you this, that if you ever if you look at a decision or something being made and there's a group of people and they make that decision as a team, that's called groupthink. Whatever they're doing is the wrong way to do it. Look at things that way. You find your own way of doing it and just repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. The last thing is you avoid rejection and you look at it as a failure. If that's who you are, you need to clear that out of your space, because you're never, in my opinion, going to succeed as a salesman if you're not willing to have people telling you no. Okay? It's just, anybody who's been in the sales business for any amount of time knows that some percentage of the people that you talk to are going to reject whatever you're trying to sell them. And it may be that your service is not the right product. It may be that he doesn't like you. Okay, so ask the tough questions throughout the process to know that there are people that actually call you up just to tell you no. I'm trying to give you a way of thinking about this this whole skill set known as selling, so that you can be more successful at it. All objections fall into one of 4 categories: product or service. Okay. Time. The stall. I have to talk to my boss. I have to talk to my wife. I have to think about it. I don't make rash decisions. Those aren't real objections until you've proven to yourself that they're real objections. And the only way when you hear things like that you're going to discover that is to acknowledge them. I have to talk to my spouse. Well, I agree with you. I always talk to my spouse. Always start with an agreement, then disregard whatever they said and continue with your pitch, okay? Because most of what people say are just comments. They're not real objections. Don't handle every comment that a prospective buyer gives you during the sales cycle as a real objection, because otherwise you're going to be spending all of your time handling objections. Classically, all the previous training things I've ever been through focusing on handling objections. What you need to find out is if they're real, then you handle them. And the only way that you find out if they're real is by asking tough questions. Or the other one is money. I didn't mean to leave that one out. Most of the things that you hear about your product or about someone's time, if they're stalling or adding time to your communication cycle, or objections, they're not objections, they're all whatever you hear from people about money, they're simple reactions that we've created as we've grown up and gone through things to hold people off, to hold them, myself as a buyer, off from making a decision. I'm going to give you a nugget here. If you constantly hear, that's a lot of money, check yourself. How often do you use that? Okay, because you'll draw to yourself people who will say things to you that's in your reality. So if when you go out to buy a car or you go out to dinner, your first thought is that's a lot of money, you're going to attract to you people that always say that. And it's not true that a $55 steak is a lot of money. And there's a whole set of training and courses that you can go through about money and finance that will help you with this, okay? But in general, you attract to yourself your own objections. Think about that. We're still talking about the close, okay? Always introduce price early, okay? Reminder, introduce price as early as you can into the discussion, but don't negotiate early, okay? Never negotiate with someone until you've given them your whole pitch and they understand exactly what you're talking about. What I use, and this is a little bit different than what Grant does, I always ask people when I get to the point where I'm going to give them a pitch for my service, are you the kind of person that likes the price up front and then all the details, or do you like all the details and then the price? Because I'm setting them up for, even if I give them the price, they've already agreed by the way that I asked that question that they're going to listen to the details. If you're the kind of person that wants the price up front before I give you all the details, I'm setting them up for the fact that they're going to listen to all of my pitch. And I'm relentless about that. And then the other thing is, do you have enough information to make a decision? Try that. The very first time you're trying to, in a sales cycle with someone, and you feel that little communication lag or that little flat space, even if it's on your side, okay, ask that question. That little dip is where you interject this question. They may be already making a decision. So ask them, do you have enough information to make a decision? Some other of the tough questions that we're talking about is ask somebody, what are you not certain about? Don't be afraid to ask them that. Okay? Or another way you can ask that question, on a scale of 1 to 10, what do you believe or not believe of the things I've just told you? Just ask them. Okay? On here it says on a scale of 1 to 10, how do you feel? So depending upon, use this on a scale of 1 to 10 on a lot of things that you want to find out. Find out if people trust you, okay? Because they'll answer that question. And then they're clearing up for you how to give them the information that they need to bring them to the level where they're actually going to make a decision. And here's another one. I've never used this one. If you don't do this, what will you do? I guess I do use that question because I ask them what they're buying. I talk to them about how much tax they particularly owe. If you don't go through this program, you're going to owe the state of California $387,412. So just remember what you're comparing it to. The fourth one is a question that is going to help you qualify people. Have you ever made a bad decision? Everyone has. What was it? Find out what's going on in their mind, that what bad decision in their mind they're comparing you or your service to. Okay. Or the last question, what is the worst thing that could happen if you buy this plane or you buy this boat? What's the worst thing that could happen? Tough questions. That's the way to shorten your sales cycles and improve your closing ratios, even though I don't want to use that word. All I want you to do is improve your ability to close deals, make more deals. I have a whole course on this that I would love to teach any of you, all right? But the big single largest problem with most sales organizations is follow-up. By survey in the United States of America, 64% of sales organizations have no follow-up plan. Less than 2% of all sales are made on the first contact. So if someone calls you and you pitch them on your ability to broker their vessel or their airplane, okay, and they don't hire you right away, you got to follow up on them. Because if you look at the next line, 80% of all customers buy between the 5th and the 12th follow-up. We have a follow-up system built into our organization that takes people out 365 days. Why is that? Airplane and vessel buying decisions are a lot of times very long sales cycles. I'm relying on all of you guys to sell more vessels, sell more aircraft, and with the hope that you'll refer clients to me. Okay, I'm being completely transparent about that. That is the whole basis for why I started 10X Excellence. Even though I've discovered that I can help people locally with whatever sales project or whatever business project problem that they have, and I will continue to do that. But my reason for starting the 10X Excellence is to help aircraft and vessel brokers improve their sales cycles. And I want to help you. And I can do that in a lot of different ways. I can send you courses. I can do consulting over video on Skype. We can do it over the phone. Whatever help you need, whatever you identify as your largest problem that's keeping your company at the size that it's at, or that you feel is slowing down your ability to close things. Okay. Here's something if you're involved in a sales organization. 94% of managers never touch base with the customer. You should always have a setup system that if someone makes a sales cycle, and you can do this for yourself, okay, if you call somebody and you give them the sales pitch and they don't buy from you right away, call back later that day or the next day and pretend to be, hi, this is Joe, and I'm following up on the discussion that you had with you, okay, and I'm just finding out, and do it from a internal quality control standpoint, okay. It is my job to find out why he wasn't able to close you yesterday. You'll find out more things. And if somebody says to you, you sure sound like the guy that I talked to yesterday, yeah, I do sound a lot like him. But, you know, I work with him every day, and I don't like him. And you can create some banter about that, which will make him forget about he thinks he remembers your voice. Okay, but you need to know why people didn't hire you on that call and continue that process through the whole sale thing. If you've got more than one person in your organization, have them do what we call manager calls. Okay, and they don't have to necessarily be managers. You can have your bookkeeper make those calls for you. But I would strongly suggest that you record those calls because that's training for you. And here, the last bullet on the follow-up thing is if someone tells you they're not interested, you need to know something. A condition of no interest is interest. Let that sink in for a while. Okay. You have been for years, I'm not interested. And you've been accepting that as the truth. If there's a scale of interest, no interest is on that scale. Okay. So that's a level of interest. And all you got to do is move them up to the very next point on that scale. And I have a whole interest presentation that I can give you if you're interested in it. Basically, what I'm trying to do is just change your mindset. Throw away everything that isn't working for you, that's keeping you at whatever condition that you're currently in that you're trying to change, and I'll help you with it. You must have a CRM that you utilize daily. If you're going to ask me what CRM do you use, I'm not going to tell you. And you could ask Grant, he's not going to tell you, because all CRMs are crap. The reason they're crap is because they're not used correctly. So it's a user problem. You need to have a specific written policy and a specific way to stay on top of all the follow-up that you have to do. And remember, from my viewpoint, once someone reaches to me, okay, I'm going to send communication particles down that line until they become a client. The way you get off my list is you die. It's called BFD. And for those of us that are my age, that used to mean something else. Okay. My definition of BFD is this. I'm going to communicate with you until you buy, until I close you, until we exchange money on your side for service on my side. Fly means you tell me to go away, and I'll never completely go away. If you tell me never to talk to you again, I might take 6 months. Okay. But you reached to me for something. Okay, at some point, that's a level of interest. So I'm going to take responsibility for that communication line and continue to communicate with you. You can get off my list if you die. BFD. That's the way that I look at it. Never, ever rely on one form of communication. If someone calls in to me, I have a tendency to send them a text if I'm on their cell phone with them while we're talking or immediately after I get off the phone. So I will talk to you on the phone, I will text you things, I will email you things. You can use handwritten letters. You imagine all of the forms of communication that are possible. Make sure that you get from the guy that calls you that communication terminal. A communication terminal would be an example of a telephone number, a landline number, the extension number, email addresses, maybe social media. As long as they're willing to give you their receipt point, don't rely on one form of communication. Never rely on one flow of anything. Okay. And when it comes to telephone numbers, always, always, always get the cell number, because that is something that's personal to the human being that you've gone through all this work to create a relationship with. And typically, if you're dealing with someone who works for another company, when he leaves, you have no way to find him. Okay? So make sure that you get cell numbers, because the cell numbers, 99% of the time, go with the individual. And then you're not going to lose that person that you've bothered to establish this relationship with. When it comes to following up, you need to be creative. You need to be persistent. Don't be bothered, and be committed to it. Okay? If you talk to somebody who is talking to you about buying something, and you call him up every day and say, when are you going to buy? When are you going to buy? When are you going to buy? That's a lack of creativity, and that means that you're not committed to whatever you're trying to do. If you don't have any creativity, then you're not committed to it. it's just it's a whole nother course. It's other things that you need to know. But if you call them up to find out how they're doing, you call them up to you have an article that their company or they were involved in. Hey, I saw this today. I just thought of you. Find out about their personal lives. And this is all. It has always been part of the relationship building, which most of you are probably pretty good at. But stay in communication with people, but don't always call them and ask the same question for two reasons. One, they get bored and they're going to stop communicating with you, and you're going to get bored with the cycle and you're going to stop following up on it. Okay, so be creative. Call about something different every time. And I think the number one form of communication is the telephone. Okay, the only thing better than that is actual face-to-face. But a lot of people who are in the vessel or aircraft industry, there's too much distance between us and the potential client for you to be able to do that. So you really move your phone skills up. Get involved with our phone selling programs, and it'll help you. Okay. The last thing can be a little bit confusing. Be first and be last. Be first means being first in someone's mind when they're thinking about whatever area that you're selling or whatever service that you're selling. You always want to be at the front part of their mind. You want to be first in their mind. And be last, to me, means be the last person in this communication cycle, which means they hired you. There's no one else left. Okay? And you have to differentiate yourself. So I'm going to play one more video for you about some additional things that Cardone does, and I strongly recommend you to take this seriously, and actually, if you want my help with this, call me or email and we'll make sure that it all happens for you. I'm going to pause this for a second because Shay just reminded me that I haven't brought up the fact. If you have any more questions, please send them to me. These things I'm designing them for you because my success is based on your success, and I just want you to communicate with me. So let me continue this thing and continue to send me questions.
The #1 marketing influencer to watch in 2017. But he has done work for Google, Morgan Stanley, Hertz, Sprint Wireless, Northwestern Mutual, and the U.S. Army. He is the creator of the #1 online sales training system in the world. Grant Cardone! I ain't here to make sense. I'm here to make millions.
People don't cost money. People are free. Now, this is misinformation in the marketplace. You don't know about finances, otherwise you would have money.
What's up, guys? We're here in Miami, coming all the way from Toronto, flying out from Canada, making the long trip just to get here to see Uncle G, Grant Cardone.
Sarah was selected as one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people in the world.
You don't get ready, you stay ready. Stay ready, baby. Stay ready. You know what that means? Stay ready. Invest, spend, do whatever you gotta do. Stay ready.
I'm excited to be here today. I can't wait to meet all of our friends, our family as we call them, and deliver some content that will help them in their lives. And I totally support Grant, so I'm here and I'm very happy to be so.
I'm excited. I'm pumped. You know, there's very few of my fellow speakers that, I get excited about taking the stage with. I'm about to take with Grant Cardone at the 10X conference, and he always throws some really good questions at me, and I always keep asking him, how's he going to 10X me? You'll see.
Ladies and gentlemen, Damon John.
So, a lot of the tips I've learned is successful people we are selfish in a good way.
I don't want you making the same mistake I made. Too little thinking for too long, playing a game way below my abilities for too long. Don't do it anymore. And I just hope these people leave here and have a freaking expansion. I somehow, in some way, shape, or form, something I said today changes them. So they're like, every time even if they go back to the goldfish bowl, they're like, man, I'm going to jump out of this thing and get back in the ocean with Uncle G. Okay? I can't wait to see you at one of these.
So that's pretty much it I have for today's webinar. I guarantee you, whether you're an attorney, a CPA, an aircraft salesman, a vessel salesman, or a plumber who's trying to expand your company, that I can help you. Reach out to me, identify for me what you think is holding your organization down. Reach out to me and let me know how much you'd like to expand it, and I'll create a custom training program with you, and you'll get me personally. I will even come directly to your office, okay, and help you be better at what you're doing. Is there any other questions that any other comments that anyone would like to make? I'd like some feedback from you. Thank you for your comment. He said, thanks, Tom. All good points, plenty of notes, no questions. So I know that you created a very good presentation. Our business focus is business aviation, jets. Appreciate this opportunity to listen and hear what you have offered. That came from Rick Schuler. So I guess there are no other questions, so I'm going to end this event. I look forward to hearing from all of you who have been on board. And this recording will be on our website really quickly. Thank you.